لتحصلوا على الملايين ليس لكم إلا المحامي لورنس قاجي، خبرة طويلة في الإصابات وحوادث السقوط والسيارات، يتحدثون لغتكم، يحاربون من أجلكم. المحامي لورنس قاجي، الاستشارات مجانية ولا يستلمون أتعابهم إلا بعد إكمال القضية. زوروهم على 18000 West 9 Mile Road Suite 1400 Southfield. اتصلوا على المحامي لورنس قاجي 248-702-6641 248-702-6641.
أعزائي المستمعين، مساء الخير عليكم. معي في الاستوديو المحامي لورنس قاجي والمحامي جان شرودر. شنقول لهم welcome Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
And welcome Mr. Jan.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
واليوم نرحب بالعزيزة الصديقة العزيزة تمارا اللي راح تترجم اللي 3 أسابيع خلتني آني بالنص. فأهلا وسهلا بك أختنا العزيزة.
سهلا.
مستمعينا، طبعا راح يكون برنامجنا أيضا اليوم مميز، وكثير من الأسئلة اللي تدور بذهنكم تقدرون تتصلون بنا على 586-825-2015 586-825-2015. أي واحد عنده سؤال استفسار يقدر يتصل بنا على 586-825-2015. وأذكركم دائما برقم تليفون المحامي لورنس المكتب هو 248-702-6641 248-702-6641، ويتكلمون اللغة العربية والكلدانية. ونقول موضوعنا اليوم هو we spoke before the program about what's order of priority.
Yeah, and what does that really mean, right?
What's that mean? What's the difference? Which insurance company should pay your benefits?
Yeah. So the reason why we wanted to talk about this today is because the way Michigan law works is there's a different order of priority, meaning who's going to pay your medical bills after an accident, depending on whether it's a car accident, a motorcycle accident, a pedestrian accident, a lift accident. So that's why I wanted to go through. We have all the time. We always have hospitals and other medical providers billing the wrong insurance company, and it's a lot of denials come and all that good stuff. So we're going to break down each one for the listeners.
Awesome. So اليوم موضوعنا راح يكون الأولوية. منو الأولوية؟ منو اللي راح يدفع الانشورنس أو البلات؟ منو عندهم الأولوية؟ هل الانشورنس الصحي، الانشورنس السيارة، انشورنس الشغل، إذا أنت كنت السائق أو أنت كنت الجانب مو السائق المرافق، أو أنت كنت تمشي، لو أنت على الباسكل، لو أنت على الماطور، كل واحد إله أولوية شكل. هاليوم راح نحكي منو راح يدفع ومنو إله الأولوية بالدفع.
حلو.
So, Lawrence, what do you want to start with? Shall we start with just the regular old accidents?
Just to keep it simple, we'll start with
Car versus car?
Car versus car accident.
أوكي، راح نبدي بأنه الحادث سيارة ضد سيارة.
سيارة تضرب سيارة.
سيارة.
حلو.
Tomorrow we'll also be mentioning differences. So there was a different order of priority before 2019, after the reform, or before the reform.
Yeah.
So we will be noting quickly on each topic what the law was prior to the reform.
طبعا قبل 2019 كانت الأولوية غير شكل، وصارت هسه ورا 2019 تغيرت. فكل جزء راح نحكي عليه، راح نقول شنو كان قبل وهسه شلون صار.
So you were involved in a car accident with another car, or you're involved in a car accident by yourself. Let's say you hit the median, or you hit a deer, or whatever happens. There's only a car involved. You first look to your own insurance company. So your own insurance company that you have on that car.
مثل ما تفضل المحامي، قال بأنه أول شيء خلينا نقول بأنه الحادث صار بسيارة، سيارة ضربت سيارة، أو السيارة انضربت على الرصيف من على صفحة، لو انضربت بغزالة أو أي شيء.
نعم.
فأكو سيارة واحدة ومالتك السيارة. فأول شيء إيش راح يصير؟ أول شيء نشوف الإنشورنس مال السيارة شيء يغطي.
And just to remind the
Not
listeners,
the car, the actual the person that's driving the car.
his insurance.
Yes.
اوكي اول شيء نشوف الانشورنس مال الشخص نفسه.
نعم.
شنو هو اللي دا يسوق السياره ايش عنده انشورنس.
the injured party goes to their own insurance.
Yes.
Whoever was injured, whether it's
Yeah.
the driver or passenger in this case.
يعني الإصابة.
Right.
الاصاب المصاب هو يشوف مالته الانشورنس.
Yeah. So let's say that person doesn't have insurance. Let's say they're a passenger or they're driving their friend's vehicle or someone else's vehicle that they don't own. They don't have car. They don't have a car. They don't have car insurance. The next order is the insurer of a spouse or resident relative of the household.
أول شيء نشوف بأنه المصاب هل عنده انشورنس هو نفسه. إذا ما عنده انشورنس نشوف هل هو عايش ويا عائلة ويا عائلته. لازم العائلة بأنه يعني عائلة دم أو الزوجة أو الزوج.
بس يكون عايشين
يعني
في بيت واحد
بالضبط.
Yeah.
نعم.
And I think this is an interesting actually point right here that's worth noting. We're talking about a resident relative's PIP benefits. That means, they have an insurance policy and it doesn't necessarily include you on it. That insurance company might still actually be required to pay your medical bills and your lost wages and the assistance around the house, things like that. So this could be an uncle, it could be an aunt, it could be a brother, it could be a sister. Your
grandparents.
Right. It can be pretty much any relative that lives with you
in the same house,
or a spouse. And they say or a spouse because technically the statute doesn't say the spouse has to live with you. Sometimes there are separated spouses. So there's some differentiation.
هو القانون عادي كل شيء
به بالضبط. مثل ما تفضل المحامي جان، من يقولون العائلة أخ أخت أب أم عم خال جد أي أحد أنت عايش وياهم بالبيت. ومن يقولون السباوس يعني الزوج أو الزوجة ما يقولون لازم عايشين بنفس البيت لأنك هواية مثلا منفصلين بس من غير متطلقين. بس فقط منفصلين. Yes.
And actually, I have an interesting little story about an actual client on this particular point. If I can give that.
So I was just going to say before you start.
Yeah.
So this is where we get the call from the sister of our client saying, "Why are you making a claim on my insurance?"
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. مثل ما قال بأنه أول شيء خابرتنا أخت الزبون مالتنا. أنتوا ليش فتحتوا قضية بالإنشورنس مالتي؟
Yeah.
And I will say, I'm sorry, but that's the way the law is written.
Right.
And if, that's the way it is, or else the client doesn't get benefits.
هذا القانون المكتوب بهالطريقة لازم نمشي بهالطريقة ولا الزبون ما يكون عنده أي قضية.
Yeah, and again, the important thing I think to note here is that this insurance isn't following the vehicle for the purposes of these PIP benefits. It's following the individual, right? It's following the individuals. So even if you're in a car as a passenger that has insurance, okay, and it's not a relative's insurance. So let's say you're in a car, as an example here, that has, we're going to use AAA as an example, okay? You're in a car with AAA. And you're just a passenger. Immediately people think, oh, well, I can use the insurance from that car. That is not how it works at all anymore. What you're looking at is you go through your own insurance, and if that doesn't exist, then you're going through a resident relative. The car isn't in the order of priority as of now anyway.
مثل ما تفضل المحامي بأنه إذا أنت كنت مع شخص بالسيارة والسيارة السيارة عندها انشورنس، من تقدم على قضية من تفتح قضية كيس ماكو ما تصير ما تروح على الانشورنس مال السيارة نهائيا. بعد كان قبل، هسه لا. هسه أول شيء إذا أنت عندك شخصيا انشورنس، لو أنت عايش ويا أحد بالبيت عنده انشورنس، السيارة بعد ماكو تغطية إلها. يعني ما تقدر تاخذ تغطية من السيارة مال الانشورنس مال السيارة بعد.
هذا بعد القانون الجديد.
هاي بعد القانون الجديد.
So John, how is that any different?
Yeah, so that's where it's interesting. So technically, prior to the reform, the first two orders of priority were the same. It went through your own first and then a resident relative. But what's changed is that prior to the reform in 2019, if there wasn't a resident relative, so let's say I don't have any insurance because I was just a passenger, right? I don't have to maintain insurance on somebody else's car. But that friend that was driving me around, well, he might have insurance, but I look next to my resident relative and they don't have any insurance. So let's say I didn't live with any resident relatives, right? My relatives, I just don't live with them. I have my own place or something like that. So what did you do? Before the reform, you could actually go to the no-fault insurer of the owner or the registrant of the vehicle, or even if they didn't have it, then the operator of the vehicle. But those are now gone. So the vehicle's insurance, basically the driver of the vehicle, the vehicle itself, it really doesn't matter for the purposes of order priority anymore after 2019.
الأولوية تغيرت. كانت قبل من أنت قاعد ويا أحد بالسيارة ويصير عندك حادث قبل 2019، إذا أنت ما عندك انشورنس شخصيا تروح ورا الانشورنس مال الأهل اللي أنت قاعد وياهم، لو الزوجة أو الزوج. إذا هذول الاثنين ماكو كان تقدر تروح ورا الانشورنس مال السيارة اللي أنت كنت قاعد بيها. ورا 2019 هاي الفقرة شالوها بعد ما يصير.
Now, I had an interesting story on this one as well, if you don't mind me sharing that. Yeah. I think that is kind of illuminates one of the issues that comes up here. So we have a client that we had signed up, and again, passenger in a car, but the client was married and separated. Okay. Now we just said that the order priority, first you go to your own. So because our client didn't have their own insurance, we say, okay, do you have a spouse or resident relative? Now this person didn't live with any resident relatives, but she was married. Now her married spouse lived in another residence.
Yes.
And that spouse we thought had an insurance policy. So we applied for the PIP benefits, but she didn't get coverage through that policy because that person was not a named insured on the policy. So in other words, they were simply a driver on someone else's policy. So the reason I mention this is it can become a little bit complicated in terms of figuring out which insurance company is supposed to pay. And so when you have questions, it never hurts to contact an attorney to say, hey, I'm trying to sort this out. I don't know what's going on.
طبعا أي واحد عنده سؤال استفسار يقدر يتصل بنا، عنده إشكال حتى بقضايا الإنشورنس اللي أو صاير عنده حادث حتى لو سابق يقدر يتصل بنا. الاستشارات مجانية في قاجي لو فيرم. معانا المحامي لورنس قاجي، المحامي جان شرودر، يشرحوا لكم أي سؤال يجاوبون عليه مباشرة. 586-825-2015. وتنقل الحلقة أيضا على قناة اليوتيوب Future Radio MI.
Remember, whether listeners call in now or they call an office later, it's always a free consultation.
إذا حبيتوا أنه تتصلون أيضا بالمكتب اللي ذكرت رقمه بالبداية هو 248-702-6641. الاستشارات مجانية إذا الآن أو في المكتب.
So Lawrence, any more on that, or do you want to go to maybe?
No. So let's move to the next order, which I have on my list is vehicle for hire, and that is the first part of 3114.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would include school buses, city buses, nonprofit buses, taxis, transportation buses, and transportation passengers.
So you're talking about basically like an Uber or a Lyft or something like that?
Right.
Okay.
اوكي هسه راح نحكي على بانه اذا انت كنت سائق باوبر، لو ليفت، لو سائق مال سياره مال مدرسه، لو سائق باص، وراح نشوف التغطيه لهم شلون تصير.
So on this, I think you have to differentiate between being either an operator or a passenger, right? It's because it's different.
Oh, yes, that is correct. So the second part differentiates between operators and passengers of these vehicles. That's right.
بهاي النقطة لازم نكون كلش واضحين بأنه هل منو راح يكون الزبون، هل هو السائق أم الراكب؟
Right. So let's start with the operators of these vehicles.
So we're in a vehicle that is essentially a vehicle in the business of transporting passengers, and you're the driver, the operator of this vehicle.
You're driving for Uber or Lyft, or you're driving one of these city or school buses, right? That's what we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
or transportation companies
Yep.
or
Yep.
هسه موضوعنا راح يكون هسه بانه السائق اللي دا يسوق اوبر، اللي يسوق ليفت، اللي يسوق اي باس مال المدرسه او مال الشغل. what else we had
Well, there's a
Or-
lot of different things. I mean, it could be a
Yeah.
school bus, it could be a city bus, it could be a
or
taxi,
لو
it could be a
بال-
transportation network.
بالتاكسي او بالباص مال الامانه احنا نقول
مصلحة.
مصلحه. لو يعني هوايه اكو ما يعني مال النقل.
نعم.
سو هسه راح نشوف شنو الاولويه لهالاشياء.
So the first order is the insurer of the vehicle involved.
Right.
Okay, John?
Yep, that is exactly right. The statute says that the person shall receive personal injury protection insurance from the insurer of the motor vehicle. So whatever that motor vehicle has on it. Now, we were talking about before, it follows the person, not the vehicle. Now we're switching it up. When you're an operator of a business, of a vehicle involved in the business of transporting passengers, and you're the driver, then yes, it's the insurer of that motor vehicle.
اوكي. كنا دائما نقول اذا انت السائق نشوف الانشورنس مالتك الشخصي. هسه لا، بما انه انت دا تسوق لشركه معينه او محدده، انت لازم تروح ورا الانشورنس مال هاي السياره.
Now, in theory, this can get a little complicated because vehicles can have multiple insurances. So that's something that has to be looked at. But generally speaking, if there's one insurer on that vehicle and you're the operator, that's going to be the insurance company.
بعض الأحيان هاي السيارات خاصة مال النقل يكون عندهم عدة انشورنسز، خاصة التريلات يكون عندهم هواية انشورنسز، مو انشورنس واحد بس. مثلا انشورنس اوبر وليفت والمصلحة هاي كلها عندهم، ما يريد أقول أمانة.
لا قولي عادي.
Now,
هاي عندهم مثلا انشورنس واحد.
now it sounds crazy, but we recently had a case, Lawrence, where we had someone in a taxi, and that taxi turned out to actually not be maintaining
Right.
insurance.
Right.
And that brings us to, I guess, what happens next if the vehicle doesn't have insurance.
So it's probably unlikely, but there's a chance that that vehicle doesn't have insurance on it.
Yeah.
Like John said, we did have a situation where the taxi, person was driving the taxi, the company didn't have insurance on it.
Taxi should have.
They should.
They should have.
Everyone should.
بالضبط، التاكسي لازم عنده انشورنس. بس مرات لو يصير اوفرلاب يعني
او خلصانه
او خلصانه وناس يدفعون، لو صاير مشكله بالبنك مثلا البيمنت ما ماشي تصير. سو صار عندنا بانه ماكو انشورنس على التاكسي.
نعم.
So what is next? The next is your own policy.
That's exactly right. We're back to your own again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
إذا بهيك حالة، إذا أبو التاكسي ما عنده إنشورنس، لازم ترجع على الإنشورنس مالتك الشخصي.
So there's a theme that's going to be running through all these. Better make sure you have a policy you're happy with, because a lot of the time it's going to end up at your own policy.
Yeah. لازم من خاصة من أنت يعني تشتغل الأحد بالنقل، بأنه أنت عندك إنشورنس يغطي كل الاشياء، لان يعني بالاخير تكون انت على عاتقك اذا هذا الانشورنس مو صحيح.
That's the whole point of our no fault system, right? So
That's right.
Go through your own insurance company, get paid faster.
Yep.
Make things easier for you. And
Yep.
That sort of thing.
لذلك نسال المستمعين والجاليه اي سؤال، اي شيء عندهم، بس يقولون يمكن يتصلون بمحامي. اتصلوا بينا المكتب 248-702-6641 ومجانا طبعا. الاستشارة مجانية. دائما نقدر نساعدكم بأي سؤال عندكم.
واحنا دائما نسمع من المحامي لورنس يقول ما عندي مانع أقضي وقت كثير مجانا ويا الشخص اللي يجي يسأل سؤال.
Now Lawrence,
yeah.
Now, Lawrence, though, what if I'm in that taxi because I don't have a car and I don't have any insurance?
Right, you don't have insurance, so it's gonna follow the remaining order is similar to a private vehicle, where you'll go through the spouse or as a relative of the house, and then if there's none there, then you can apply to the state of Michigan for.
Yep. And that's also true for other car versus
Right.
car vehicles. I don't know if
That's
we
right.
mentioned that,
That's
but
right.
there is an assigned claims option in all these cases where you're not driving your own uninsured motor vehicle.
Right.
Usually there's an avenue where you can at least get some kind of coverage through the state.
Right.
مثل ما قلنا بأنه أكثر الأحيان هسه هذا التاكسي يعني صدفة، بس إذا تروح إلى الباص المصلحة له هذول 100%
باصات اعتيادي مع المصلحه هذول عندهم حتما
لازم عندهم
لأن
بس
شركة.
لازم إذا ما عندهم ترجع العاتق عليك، بما أنه أنت كنت راكب يجوز أنت ما عندك سيارة فما عندك انشورنس، فترجع تروح المرحلة الأخرى ترجع إلى بأنه هل أنت عايش ويا أهل أو زوجة أو زوج عندهم انشورنس، وإذا ماكو عايش وحدك أنت دائما عندك آخر شيء بأنه ميشيغان ستيت تقدر هي تساعدك يعني إلى حد معين.
$3000
لا
أكثر؟
لا
250,000.
This is different. Yeah.
250,000
250,000
250,000 تقدر تساعدك ميشيغان ستيت تسوي لك انشورنس.
Yeah. So now what about passengers? So the statute is different for passengers, and it actually breaks it down into two parts: passengers and
In certain types of
certain
vehicles.
types of vehicles. Right?
Yes,
So the first
that's
type
right.
we're going to talk about is school bus, city buses, nonprofit buses, taxis, transportation networks, and buses used to transport passengers.
Yeah, so this is probably the most confusing part of the entire no-fault statute. There is the exception to the normal rule, which is the business of transporting passengers, and then there's an exception to the exception,
There's always
which
an exception.
differentiates different kind of vehicles within that exception depending upon which type you're in. There's a different order priority. So we'll.
John, we are making
You,
things easy.
you can't translate that really easily. I don't see the
No,
problem.
make it
You
like-
have to.
it's
You have
like
to
a
make
play.
it easy.
Easy.
If only they wrote the statute in an easy way, I can help
Yes.
you out. So let me break it down a little
No,
more.
it's okay.
Go ahead.
John,
Yes.
tomorrow's not going to let you come to the radio.
It's true.
So هسه راح نحكي بأنه إذا كنت أنت الراكب وليس السائق.
نعم.
أوكي، راكب بأي من هاي السيارات النقل.
نعم.
شنو لك الأولوية؟ دائما أكو يعني دائما أكو في الطريق لازم بعرقلة، وهاي العرقلة لازم أكو عرقلة اللخ يخلوك إياها.
اكو شغله والمحامي هو اللي
لازم نفترق كل
وياه.
وياه بالضبط. سو دائما اكو فد شيء لازم احنا نمشي لو مثل الطسه احنا نقول لازم نعبرها.
نعبر القصه.
طبعا
انت شنو كلماتك عراقيه اصليه؟
ايش نسوي؟ احنا عراقيين اصليين. الحمد لله.
As long as I can understand it, I think we're good.
المهم طبعا المحامي لورنس يفهم العربيه ويحكي شويه، بس شنو يعني يحكي انجليزي يفرق يعني، بس زين من عنده انه يعرف الكلدانيه والعربيه.
Yeah, so I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandfather spoke Chaldean,
Yes.
and my grandmother spoke Arabic.
Oh, you learn both.
So I learned both. That's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
I learned none of them.
I know. There is no reason to explain anything.
Okay.
But that's why we have the wonderful Tamara.
And wonderful
Thank you.
Tamara, she knows many languages.
Yeah.
Not-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, anyway, so basically, just the bottom line is, if you are in a school bus, a city bus, a transportation network company vehicle, such as an Uber or a Lyft or similar thing, if you're in a taxi, if you're in any one of those types of vehicles, okay, those
Transportation vehicles.
well, yeah, but not all transportation vehicles,
Yeah.
because it doesn't include things like non-emergency medical transport, which I'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
But for those things, like basically the buses and the transportation networks and the taxis, those are going to be essentially through your own policy first. So even though you're in a taxi and you're a passenger, it doesn't go through the taxi's insurance company. It goes through your own. If you're in an Uber or a Lyft, and you're in that Uber or Lyft, it doesn't go through the Uber's insurance company. It doesn't go through Lyft first. It goes through your own, with, of course, as always, limited exceptions because it depends on the wording of policies. But generally speaking, it'll go through your own policy first.
مثل ما تفضل المحامي بأنه بدنا نحكي على الراكب بالمواصلات اللي هي مثلا أوبر ليفت، المصلحة، إذا عندك تروح من مكان إلى مكان عندك ترانسبورتيشن جاي داخلك. أول شيء إذا صرت بحادث الأولوية بأنه ترجع إلى إذا أنت عندك انشورنس شخصي. أوكي، يعني انشورنس مع السيارة.
Now, if you don't have your own policy, again, it's a resident relative, meaning a brother, sister, mother, father, etc.
إذا ما عندك انشورنس تروح على الأهل مثل ما قلنا، أخ، أخت، أم، أب، جد، أي أحد.
Now, normally, earlier we said the next thing would be the Michigan Assigned Claims Plan through the state. But in this case, if you don't have your own and you don't have a resident relative, it actually now it'll go to the insurer of the motor vehicle. So now that Lyft insurance or that Uber insurance or that taxi insurance, now that will apply before the state.
قبل نقول ما يصير نروح على السيارة.
نعم.
بس لأنه هاي مواصلات، إذا ماكو أنت ما عندك أنت ما عايش وحدك، ما عندك أهل ويا سيارة، تروح على الانشورنس مال النقل اللي انت بيها. مثلا اذا اوبر تروح على الانشورنس مال اوبر، اذا على ليفت، اذا على بالسيتي باص اللي هو الباسات مال سيتي ديترويت، اذا انت بكل يعني النقل تروح على الانشورنس مال السياره.
اذا حتى هذه ماكو.
Now, strangely enough, our legislature decided that ambulances, non-emergency medical transport, limousines, airport shuttles, and party buses, okay, don't count for this. And so instead you have to go through the vehicle's insurance first instead of your own first. Why that is, I'll tell you, I have no idea.
بس إذا أنت راكب بليموزين، لو راكب بتاكسي مع المطار، لو راكب بإسعاف، لو نون إمرجنسي إسعافات مو بالطريقة يعني على السريع، لازم يعني
مو بالامرجنسي، مو رايحه بواجب.
هاي كلها غير شكل.
شلون يعني؟
هاي تروح اولويتها الى الانشورنس مال السياره، مو تروح اولويه الانشورنس مالتك. ليش؟
ما يعرف،
ما حد يعرف ليش. هم اللي سووا القوانين هيك سووا،
هم يعرفون بس ما احنا ما نعرف.
Who knows what the intent was on that, but
yeah, I mean, it's a strange statute, and you know, we're living with it.
Yeah.
So.
فشي غريب. دائما احنا نقول اول شيء الانشورنس مالتك، بعدين اهلك، وبعدين مال السياره اذا انت بالنقل.
هاي لا العاديه، هذه لا.
بهاي الاشياء اللي هسه قلناها، اللي هي الليموزين، اللي هي التاكسي مال المطار، الاسعاف، هذا هاي كلها ما تحسب، لازم تروح عن طريق الانشورنس مال السياره.
And again, this gets complicated, so really at the end of the day, like when you have questions, just call us. We'll be happy to help anybody out.
That's exactly right. So we're going over each type of order of priority, but obviously you're not going to remember all of this stuff. Just if you have any questions about anything in particular, just give us a call. This is just more informational than anything else.
طبعا كل ما نتعمق وكل ما نحكي بالأولوية راح تكون معقدة وراح تصير خربطة، مو كل شيء واحد يتذكر. فرجاء اتصلوا بينا واحنا نكون أكثر من يعني welcome، مفتوحة الباب لكم. تليفوناتنا بس اتصلوا واحنا موجودين.
دائما تقدرون تتصلون إذا كان على الهواء على 586-825-2015، وإذا كان للمكتب مكاتب قاجي لو فيرم هي 248-702-6641. استشارات مجانية دائما. برامج المحامي لورنس هي كل يوم خميس الساعة 1 الظهر، وتعاد في يوم ثلاثاء الساعة 8 مساء. Yes.
Any examples, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of gave a little bit of an example with sort of the taxi situation where, they're missing insurance and then you have to go through there. But I mean, in this case, it basically, I'll give one quick example. So if you have, let's say you're on a party bus, right? And you're, apparently this is a big thing in Detroit. A lot of people want to get onto a bus and then they party, they drink, they're having a good time. Maybe it's a birthday party, something like that. This is one of those situations where it's the insurer of the vehicle. So hopefully that party bus company is actually maintaining insurance. But we did run into a situation one time where we couldn't locate the insurance. Nobody could. We tried very hard to locate it, and over, no one could provide any information on who the insurance company was on that bus. And so, at that point, then you have to put the next highest order priority, which is their own policy, on notice in a situation like that. So it does happen sometimes.
All right. Next one I have is the third subsection is employer furnished vehicles.
Yes.
So we're not talking about, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not talking about independent contractors. We are talking about people that are working for a company.
That's a good point.
And your employer said, here's a car.
Right.
Drive it to work or pick up lunch.
Yes.
Whatever the case may be.
Right.
Yeah,
maybe you work for an electric company, right? And you're going to job. Or maybe you are working for a trash company, picking up trash. Or maybe you drive for Chrysler and you're test driving the car and it gets into an accident.
Or pick up some parts.
Yep. There's lots of situations. But basically, if you are a W-2 employee, you work for that company, that's what we're talking about right now.
هسه موضوعنا راح يكون إذا أنت موظف ودا تسوق سيارة الشركة وأنت موظف وليس سيلف كونتراكتر، يعني مو أنت انت مو لا مو مشكله، انت مو يعني الكونتراكتر بس على ال 1099. اذا انت W2 وتاخذ التاكسز، تدفع تاكسز عن طريق الشركه، انت موظف عندهم وانت بالسياره مال الشركه، شنو الاولويه؟
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned W2 and taxes in your translation there, I noticed. And the one thing I will say about that is, even if you're considered, if your employer considers you 1099 independent contractor, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a 1099 independent contractor. So, because there are situations where people are treated as employees, they just don't have the taxes taken out properly. Yeah. So that is a whole separate legal question that I'm not going to get into with detail today, but just to know that the bottom line is, if you're considered an employee, the following order of priority applies, which is, first, it's your employer's insurance, right? Your employer is supposed to maintain insurance on the company vehicle, so it goes through there. If they don't have that for some reason, or it lapses, then it would go to the insurer of the person who was injured. So if you were the occupant in there, or you were the passenger.
Use your own insurance company.
Bingo, exactly. And then, of course, after that, it goes to resident relatives again, and then finally to MACP.
State. Yeah.
Okay. So إذا أنت دا تسوق، أنت موظف بشركة وليس مقاول بشركة، موظف. الموظف لازم إذا صار بحادث سيارة ودا يسوق السيارة مال الشركة، أولاً تروح على السيارة مال الشركة. ثاني شيء، إذا الشركة ما عندها، تروح على الشخصي. يعني بعدين على الأهل أو الزوجة.
يعني إذا هذا
أو الزوج.
هذا ماكو تروح على
هذا بالضبط. آخر شيء، إذا كلهم ماكو، تقدر تروح على الستيت اوف ميشيغان.
هذا آخر شيء.
هذا آخر شيء.
Yeah.
So simple it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Yeah. So the next one is a big one, actually, especially right now. Weather's nice, summertime.
Yeah.
Let's talk about motorcycle accidents.
Yes, that's a good one.
Motorcycle accidents.
Now, yeah.
الجو حلو صار، مطارات هواية، وتدري شباب أكثر شيء يسوقوها، شوية متشجعين أكثر من اللازم، بس رجاءً بليز يعني دير بالكم، لأنه كلش خطرة. راح نغطي الانشورنس مال الموتورسيكل.
Yeah.
Now,
it's a funny story. So a lot of my friends ride motorcycles, and I've always been tempted to get one, and they just, from what I've seen, in my line of work, they just They are very dangerous. You know, you're not worried about you, you're worried about other cars around you, and obviously you don't have that same protection if you're involved in a car accident or a motorcycle accident.
مثل ما تفضل المحامي يقول يعني أصدقائي هواية عندهم موتورسيكل بس وأنا هم أريد بس لأنه شغلي ودا أشوف يعني أنا كلش قريب من هالشيء وأنت مو محصن مثل ما أنت قاعد بالسيارة. الضرر مال الموتورسيكل كلش كبير
صحيح.
عن السيارة. فالخطر مو بس إلك أنت تخلي حتى لعائلتك your family and everybody around you.
Especially now, you know, you're not required to wear a helmet when you're riding a motorcycle now. So a lot of people are not wearing a helmet. And, you know, you have data shows you have a much higher chance of a fatality or a very, very serious head injury when you're not wearing a helmet. So if you are driving a motorcycle, I highly suggest you wear a helmet.
القانون تغير ما مضطرين يلبسون بعد خوذة شفنا فرق كلش كبير بالأعداد بالحوادث والأضرار الحوادث كلش كبيرة.
صحيح.
كلش صعدت. فإحنا طبعا ننصح صح هي يعني ما ملزمين بس رجاء لبسوا حياتك.
Yeah, and frankly, if the risk involved wasn't reason enough, the order of priority is gonna reveal another reason, which is unfortunate, and that is, unlike cars, where you basically protect yourself by buying your own policy, right? We've talked about that over and over. A lot of the times, it can fall on your own policy.
Yeah.
But with motorcycles, it's different.
مثل ما قلنا إذا أنت تسوق سيارتك ترجع للإنشورنس مال سيارتك. بس هسه بالموتورسيكل غير شكل.
And by the way, Lawrence, you know, you mentioned you thought about buying a motorcycle. I also thought about that at one point, and my reasons are a little different than yours. I'm certainly not cool enough for a motorcycle, but I can tell you the idea of the 60 mile an hour gas or 60 miles per gallon worth of gas. My goodness, I looked at that and I went, wow, I should buy a motorcycle. But then I'm in this line of work and I go, man, I don't want a motorcycle. So you can translate that directly.
المحامي جان قال بما انه اني شكلي مو مال اركب موتور ولا اني بهالشيء بس من تشوف الموتور طبعا الصرف مالته اقل من السياره هوايه اقل فمن شافه قال لا عاد اريد موتور بس بعدين من لانه مثل ما قلنا شغلنا وكلش قريبين من هالحوادث
نشوفها
يعني مروعه يعني تخوف
فعلا
قال لا ما اروح بالموتور.
I had the same barber for 33 years. 33 years, and he drove a motorcycle, and he told me all of his cool stories about driving down the coast, the east coast of Michigan, or not even just Michigan, but like the east coast of the whole United States, and then driving out west on his motorcycle.
Even snow time, raining time.
Yeah, I mean, he mostly did these trips in his later years during the summer, but I mean, when he was younger, he would drive at all times of the year.
So I'm pretty big into snowmobiling and ATV riding. Mm-hmm. So I think that's enough for me. I don't want to take any more chances.
طبعا
for
me none.
Yeah.
القانون الجديد بالنسبة للتليفونات هسه.
Yes.
So
هذا مهم جدا.
Yeah.
This is important for about
the phone.
Using phone while you are driving.
There is a new law.
Yeah.
is coming in. قانون جديد new law is coming in for using your phone in the car. So
they start, I think.
Either they started or
بعدهم ما بعدين قالوا على اعتقد خلال اسبوعين على اكثر. مو اكيد.
وغرامات هوايه.
نعم.
They are gonna be hogging you. راح
ضروري.
كلش لانه الحوادث بشكل كلش كبير واكثريتها انت واقف بالاحمر ويجي واحد يضربك من ورا ليش؟
لأنه
Yeah, I
ما
think
منتبه.
مدى يعرف.
June 30th, I think, is when the new law
June
takes
30th?
effect.
أي.
Yeah.
بشهر السادس يوم 30 راح يكون هذا
يشمل
يبدي فمن هسه واحد شويه يتعود بانه ما يلزم تليفونه بالسياره.
But yeah, basically this new law, and to be honest, I haven't even read it yet. I've only heard about it, but it's supposed to ban all well, basically any use of a phone when it's not that isn't attached to the vehicle. So you can't text, which was already true, but now you can't answer a phone call. You can't basically touch the phone at all unless it's in a hands-free way.
Hands free only.
أي. قبل هذا القانون ما يصير تسوي تكست، ما يصير تكتب.
نعم.
هسه حتى ما يصير تلزم التليفون بعد، لازم التليفون هو مربوط بالسيارة
سماعات.
لو على السبيكر لو سماعات فقط، ممنوع تلزم التليفون نهائيا.
Yeah, now there's a ticket and a fine. I think the first offense is
$100.
I think it's $100, and then after that,
15 days.
it increases after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second time is, I think, 200. Third time within 3 years.
Yeah. So you got to be real careful now.
لازم
I
كل شيء
guarantee
يبالغ.
you, there's going to be about 5,000 police officers on every road come June 30th,
Yeah.
just watching for people who are on their cell phones.
Even undercover.
Yes,
I mean, yeah,
it could be.
I wouldn't surprise me. So.
فيعني من هسه يقول لك ديروا بالكم لا تستعملون التليفون.
من هسه تعودوا لا تستعملون.
عودوا لا تستعملون.
Yes.
عودوا انه ما حد يكتب ولو احنا يعني most of the times when you drive all the drivers right left their phones are
on the phone
they're
talking.
on the phone
Yes.
talking
And I'm
texting.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure people, or the asphalt drivers don't tell us, but I guarantee a lot of the reasons why these accidents happen is because of text messaging and apps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This would reduce the accidents.
Absolutely.
Oh, we got a caller.
الو صوت الغد تفضلوا.
مرحبا استاذ شاهد.
مرحبا عيني.
ممكن عندي سؤال للمحامي؟
تفضلي.
أنا صديقتي قبل فترة وقعت بالماير.
اوكي.
بس شنو يعني هم قالوا لها بس هي كل شيء ما قدمت سوت، بس هسه هي فد مرة يعني متأذية. لها يعني تقدر هسه تقدم أو تسوي شيء؟
ايش قد صار لها؟
يعني عندها تقول فد 6 سنين هواية راحت.
6 سنين؟
بس هسه طلع لها كلها يعني.
No, the statute of limitations on slip and fall cases is 3 years.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. And that's at the high. I don't think it's less than 3 years.
No,
I'm sorry. I don't think it's more than 3 years.
right.
شكرا للسؤال. الجواب بأنه هو إذا يصير حادث مثل ما قلتي وقعت الزحلقت، الوقعة والزحلقة إلها عندك وقت إلى 3 سنين، ماكو أكثر من 3 سنين لازم تقدمين دعوة، وراها ما عندك أي حق تقدمين أي دعوة.
شكرا عزيزتي.
أهلا وسهلا.
أهلا.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. There's a lot of injury, general tort style injury cases have a 3-year statute of limitation. So that could include slip and falls. It can include actually third-party auto claims as well. When another driver hits you and they're at fault, there's a potential bodily injury claim in addition to all the personal injury protection information that we've been talking about today. So. And that's for an additional lump sum.
Like someone, if he want to sue the company or whatever, Meyer, within 2 years, he don't have any people that they saw him or.
So are you asking about like witnesses or?
Witnesses and.
Well, all claims require proof, right?
Camera, something.
Yeah. So all claims.
They need that, right?
Yeah. So all claims. So as a plaintiff, you have something called the burden of proof. Okay. So. We're not talking about here about a criminal case, right? In a criminal case, you're innocent until proven guilty and all that. But this is civils, and civil means you're suing for money. And in a monetary damages case, the plaintiff has the burden of proof. You have to prove your case. Generally, it depends on the type of case. There are exceptions, depending upon the specific types of case. For example, med mal has different requirements than say auto cases. But generally speaking, in all cases, what they have in common is that plaintiffs have the burden of proof. So you have to show that it's more likely than not that your story is true.
الو مرحبا.
الو
الو
الو مرحبا.
اهلا لورنس.
تفضلي حبيبتي.
اريد استنطوني الرقم مال تبيعون هاي مع الشركه.
شنو الشركه ما دافته؟
ما اللي يشغلون.
نو سوري، احنا هذه هسه برنامج مال المحامي لورنس. اذا عندك سؤال بالنسبه
سوري
اوكي عزيز.
اهلا وسهلا. اوكي wrong caller.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's different question.
Yes.
Got excited for a second.
Yeah, me too.
that's all
طبعا
right.
اي واحد عنده سؤال استفسار يقدر. احنا كان تليفوننا عاطل بصراحه، يعني هسه اشتغل. ف 586-825-2015 اي واحد عنده سؤال استفسار يقدر يتصل، طالما المحامي لورنس قاجي والمحامي جان شرودر موجودين في الاستوديو مستمعينا.
So,
بس I just want to
yeah, please.
translate what you just said because it's very important.
Yeah.
Like this lady just waited 6 years. Why?
Why she didn't?
Exactly. ليش هسه المتصلة يعني انتظرت 6 سنين. بس أريد أكون فتشي واضح مثل ما قال المحامي جان بأنه الكل حوادث السيارات اللي سنة حق ترفعين قضية. حوادث إذا مو حوادث، إذا عندك أي شيء ضد medical malpractice يعني أضرار صحية، أغلاط صحية، لا أكثر 2 يمكن. بس كلها إلها حد معين، ماكو فتشي مفتوح. فإذا فتشي صار، شوف محامي اسأل ليش الواحد يظل راجع لي ورا وقاعد وساكت؟ كل واحد عنده حق.
يعني قصدك أنه يصير عندك كيس حتى لو بعدين
ما صارت مشت. لأنه ليش أنت إحنا متضررين وما نعرف القوانين هنا.
نعم.
ويروح عليك حقك.
صحيح.
وهذا حقهم.
That's the main thing, just waiting too long to do something.
بالضبط. مثلا إذا حادث بسيارة، حادث سيارة عندك سنة واحدة لازم تسوي قضية ضد الانشورنس مالتك الشخصي، وعندك 3 سنين ضد اللي ضربك.
مو اكو قسم من الناس حتى بعدين ترجميهم. اكو قسم من الناس يصير عنده حادث لكنه يقول هسه ما عندي ألم، ما يهمني.
بس مو طول 6 سنين.
بس لا مو 6 هذه بالنسبة للأخت 6 سنين
طويلة.
بس مثلا ورا شهر.
بالضبط.
after 2 months.
بالضبط. تعالوا. It's okay.
It's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. But there is a 1-year requirement for the PIP benefits. I don't know if that was mentioned.
Yeah,
okay.
I just said it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
قلت.
1-2 months is fine, but you do have 1 year to file a claim and
It's
make
too much.
يعني بالضبط. إذا ورا 3-4 أشهر ما تحس، بعد ما لها علاقة بالحادث هذا.
يصير غير شكل.
غير شكل بالضبط. لأنه اللي علينا
and you can't prove it.
بالضبط. الشخص المتضرر من يفتح قضية، العاتق عليه بأنه لازم يثبت شنو الأضرار اللي عنده وليش وشلون صار، وإذا عنده صور. فأنت خلال 2 شهر تقدر تسوي تحضرها. لو بعدها إذا أكو كاميرات بعدها ممسوحة، ورا 3-4 أشهر كل شيء يروح. رجاءً يعني اتصلوا بينا، اسألوا السؤال ببلاش.
بعد شنو؟
بالضبط. واحنا موجودين لكم نساعدكم. رقم تليفوننا 248-722-6641. 702
العفو
248-702-6641.
وانا كاتبته 702.
Anyway, so Lawrence, you'd asked me about the order priority for motorcycles. And before the callers, and we didn't quite get to that. So just very briefly, this is the strangest one out of all of them. And breaking from the prior tradition of it's mostly your own insurance company, it starts out here with it's the insurer of the car that's involved with you. So if you're on a motorcycle and you're involved with another car, it doesn't matter who's at fault. It doesn't matter whether you are driving the motorcycle or a passenger of the motorcycle. It doesn't matter whether you own the motorcycle or not. The first order priority for motorcycles is always the other car. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
نرجع لموضوعنا الحوادث الموتور سيكل، الدراجة النارية. مثل ما قلنا دائما نرجع على الانشورنس الشخصي مالتنا. حوادث الموتور كلش بالعكس، إذا أنت كنت السائق أو الراكب، إذا أنت كنت الغلطان أو مو غلطان، دائما يروح على الانشورنس مال السيارة اللي
ضربتها أو ضربتك.
بالضبط.
واو.
So it's a little strange, right? Because you think, hey, I just purchased an insurance policy for myself, and yet somehow it doesn't apply. And what's even stranger about that is that now, post 2019, with the changes in the no-fault law, people can actually reduce their coverages on their cars. And so there's an open dispute and debate amongst attorneys right now. But generally speaking, there's a large number who are saying you're going to be beholden to that person's policy, which means if they don't elect PIP benefits or they elect a very low level of benefits, you may not be eligible for benefits because their policy didn't have any.
Yeah. And that kind of creates a whole issue with this, right?
It's a huge problem.
A lot of motorcyclists are, upset about this law, right? So why do I have to depend on someone else's insurance?
Right.
What if they have a cap on their policy? What if they only have 250,000 or 50,000 on their policy?
Absolutely crazy.
Right? So why am I, what if I had a serious injury that I needed more coverage? It just doesn't seem.
It doesn't
seem fair.
Fair.
طبعا وقت.
Oh, we are done.
We're out of time. All right then.
Then we will come back and I have to translate it because it's very important.
Okay, translate. Translate على السريع.
السريع. أبو الماطور لازم يروح ورا اللي ضربه.
نعم.
السيارة ضربته. بما أنه الانشورنس تغير، يقدرون يختارون بأنه هم ما عندهم تغطية للطبابة، لو تغطيتهم كلش قليلة، والحوادث الموتور سيكل جدا كبيرة. هسه أكو فد نقاش بأنه ليش يريدون يغيروه، بس لذلك لأنه مو صحيح. هسه دير بالكم بالطريق، لأنه احتمال ما عنده ولازم كله أنت تكون على عاتقك كله الانشورنس، فبليز دير بالكم.
فلا السوق موتور أحسن.
تونسوا بس بهدوء.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
شكرا جزيلا أختنا العزيزة تمارا اللي أنقذتيني اليوم، وأنا أشكرك دائما بعد السافرين.
إن شاء الله.
مستمعينا مشاهدينا، كنا مع برنامج المحامي لورنس قاجي، وكان معنا المحامي لورنس قاجي والمحامي جان شرودر، وأيضا صديقتنا العزيزة الست تمارا للترجمة. نلتقيكم إن شاء الله الأسبوع القادم، والحلقة أيضا تذاع مرة أخرى يوم الثلاثاء القادم. إلى اللقاء.